Welcome, everyone. We have around 40 participants so far. Let's hope that in the next couple of minutes we go up. I think we have over 100 people sign up for today. We actually have people all over the world. So it's good night, Asia, good afternoon, Europe, and good morning, US. Thank you for joining us today for today's webinar. My name is Martin Gallardo, and I'm heading innovation and digital delivery for Pricewaterhouse in Stavanger, Norway. With me, I have the honor of having Andy Pemberton and Petteri Vainikka. Andy is OutSystems Vice President of Field Engineering, and he has over 15 years of experience with software lifecycle. Petteri is Cognite's Vice President of Product Marketing, with his career spanning smartphones, data management, telecom, and software as a service. We also have Hunter Beck. He is leading the manufacturing track for Cognite, and he is going to be presenting the case study with Arbucket. So before we jump into the agenda, and as participants are going up, let's do a little bit of housekeeping work. So for all the participants, you are all automatically mute. Regarding questions, there is a chat Q&A feature. We will answer as many questions at the end of the presentation. So just please write them down there as a note taken, and we will address them as much as we can in the 10 to 15 minutes slot that we will have. If we don't manage to answer to your questions, we will try to take them take as much as we can and answer to you by mail at the end. Another thing, the presentation is being recorded, and we will send it to you by email. One last note, at the end of the session, we'll be sending out a short survey to all attendees, asking for feedback and suggestions on anything else that you would like to see from Cognite, Pricewaterhouse, or OutSystems. I think 63 participants. I think it's a good time to now let's kick in with the agenda. Let's take a look at what we are going to do in the next 45 minutes. So we have a goal for the webinar is to introduce you to a new approach to fast-track digital delivery and generate business growth. So with that in mind, we have put together 3 sections and a case study. The first one will be Pricewaterhouse on how to fast-track value generation. Then we will have OutSystems talking about low code for also faster software development. And then we have Cognite on data operations and future-proofing your data pipeline. At the end, we have Hunter. He will take walk through our application. We have developed a customer case study for an application with a manufacturing company called Arbucket, which is a Norwegian small medium manufacturing company. So we'll come back to that. Stay tuned for that, because it's going to look something like this. It's quite exciting. I've seen it live, and it's a quite striking software for such a short time. So Hunter will take a walkthrough through it. So stay tuned. As I said, some of the goal for the webinar was to have this approach for fast-track digital delivery. And I would like to also keep in mind that this is the very essence of the partnership that we have put together between Pricewaterhouse, OutSystems, and Cognite. This is the essence of allowing every company to become a cloud software company, allowing every company to utilize all their data, and allow every company to deliver business growth fast. So this is the essence of our partnership. So let's jump to the first section, which so I would like to begin with a high-level view on how do we generate business growth. And consulting is rapidly adapting from a time that was predictable, stable, best practices were paramount. Now we are moving to a time that is uncertain, that is exponential, that is unpredictable. And well, you know what I'm talking about these days, right? Being all of us or most of us at home. So indeed, they are very tough times for many industries for many of our clients. And I think this is something that we are not going to see less of, we're going to see more of. So our customers are coming to us and are asking us to help them to adapt, move to the future faster. So we have a journey for them. We have this sort of hero's journey, almost, if you want to call it. It's a proven process to go from strategy to value realization. First thing, I would like to set the scene. So we start always listening and starting with what is the status quo for a certain company? What is the external and internal factors that are critical? What are the demographic change? What are user experiences or demands are changing? What are technological opportunities, technological disruption? We look at industry forces, competitive advantage, and many other factors. We start from here. The second part that we usually overlook is the ambition level. And I would like to talk a little bit about this because this is very important today. For many years, the risk appetite or innovation was seen almost as a risk, right? So, you're going to push your company to innovate, that's risky. But we cannot look at innovation as a risk anymore. Indeed, we actually need to see it as a fundamental prerequisite for survival. If you are not innovating, you are lagging behind. Once we have that in place and the management is on board with this level of ambition, then we can take the journey together. And this journey is usually a 4-step journey where we start with the discovery phase, then we move into development phase, then we scale. And in a scale, we are talking about scaling towards your internal customers, could be employees or stakeholders, or even your suppliers, but it could also be a scale externally if you are in a B2B or B2C business, right? So the scaling could be in different levels. We also have this dichotomy of expanding market share or expanding amount of features, right? So scaling is actually a quite complex and rich topic. At the end, when we have something that is working and is out there to a critical mass, we also need to start optimizing. So if we have this journey, I would like to keep you in mind this S-curve. It's very interesting when you communicate to stakeholders as well. And there are 3 critical factors that I would like you to keep in mind. So the first factor is you need a proven process to identify core problems, find creative solutions, and quickly test, develop, and scale these solutions. If you don't have a process, if you don't have a map, you're going to be trying and failing and not having a north star to guide you through. The second is enablers, and I find enablers super interesting because we didn't have them 10 years ago. 10 years ago, these things didn't exist, basically. And we're talking about design thinking. Design thinking has been there for 40 years, but it has been really mainstream adopted in the last 10 years. We're talking about Agile, the same, has been there for a long time, but now it's everyone can now have access to tons of information. The same for DevOps. So we have new ways of working, but we also have new technology that are enablers. One of the technologies is low-code. The second technology is data accessibility, data integration, and data contextualization. The third factor I would like to talk about is you need to have a system to prioritize and discard innovations along the journey as fast as possible, using extensive testing of the user experience, business return on investment, technological risk, and create decision gates to assess how they are developing over time. Your company needs to start thinking more as a venture capitalist. And in the innovation game, people are really good at having as many ideas as possible. And that's good, it's part of the process. But we need to be good, much better at discarding and eliminating as many ideas that they are not worth pursuing. So this is a very interesting change in the mindset that we need to have. We need to create a lot of ideas very fast and being able to test them with the customer. So how are we going to do that? Again, you need a process, you get the enablers. So let's take a look a little bit more in detail about the first phases of the process when we are on the discovery and development phase. How can we fast track that part? So this is a very high level overview. And we normally start, as I said, with initial assessment and research. So we will spend usually 1 or 2 weeks gathering data, doing research, and so on. Then we are going to have usually a 2 to 5 days process. It could be through a workshop, it could be design sprint, any other methodology where we're going to convert the technology opportunities, we're going to convert broken experiences, and we are going to convert the strategy into use cases. Once we have the use cases, we're going to ideate, brainstorm, prototype, and test this type of solution. So we're going to have a portfolio of concepts that we want to take forward. Sometimes the concept, we have found such a good concept that we're going to go directly and start validating this hypothesis. And we are going to validate it in three ways. We're going to validate that it makes business sense. We're going to validate that it's scalable, especially in terms of data, for example. The data quality is good. We know data is crap in, crap out, right? So we need to understand that it's actually the real data, the data that we need. And we also need to assess that this is actually what the customers are going to adopt, right? So we have a process over 2 weeks and 2 weeks and 2 weeks where we're actually going to deploy new versions of an improved product. And this can take just from 2 to 4 weeks to 8 to 12 weeks, depending on the complexity, but it's not that long. And how this looks in practice? So in practice, this looks something a little bit more like this. So we put together a multidisciplinarity of strategies, data engineers, designers, and subject matter experts. And we're talking about, we're putting people from the manufacturing company together with designers, together with the data engineers from Cognite. We're putting some business consultants. They are all working together to run this process. The first thing, we will get to know each other, and we will engage and plan. Then we have a design part where we are actually going to the deep core problems, and we are going to find some value propositions. After that, we will move to development, where we have a tight team, usually 3 to 5 people, where they are going to develop very fast a new product. Don't have much time to go into detail, of course, on any of these words. There is plenty of information that you can find online, so please take a look at the recording later and contact us. So what is interesting with all of this is this was not possible 10 years ago. I mean, simply not possible. And we are talking about all the software stack was not there. Well, I think OutSystems was there already, starting with the journey. But it's super interesting to take this product exploration with design thinking on the 3 levels, what in Pricewaterhouse we call BXT, which is business, technology, and experience. And we create these concepts, and we quickly put them with very, very clear specifications in terms of user experience, user interface, data, and return on investment. And we put them very quickly into something that actually works, that actually you can deploy. And I'm sort of full stack developer. I've been not educated on it, but on my spare time for many, many years. And since I learned low code, it's just amazing. So with this note, I'm going to give the word to Andy, which is going. I'm sure you want to know much more about low code. So now it's time for Andy Pemberton to continue with the talk. The floor is yours, Andy.
Thank you, Martin. I appreciate the handoff and the warm introduction there. So, I'm really happy to be here speaking alongside our partners, Cognite and PwC. The introduction that Martin just gave us is actually, I'm sitting here in my chair reeling at how well we're aligned. You would think that these materials that we worked at the same company, frankly. For example, when I saw that agile diagram of the product floor with all the engineers, we literally have a very similar diagram that we use quite a bit in talking to our customers about how they can transform, their company using this platform called OutSystems. And OutSystems is in a really interesting space where we're essentially attacking the problem of creating software and the lack of speed and agility in creating software. So it's a huge problem. As Martin said earlier, this has really shifted from innovation has really shifted from a should do to a must do to stay competitive. And amidst the current global crisis that we're seeing, not even to stay competitive, but to stay in existence, right? We've seen a huge influx of demand and new use cases, and even, I'm proud to say that, there are companies out there and partners and companies of ours actually helping with the current crisis through our platform. And hopefully in this quick talk, you'll see why and how the platform actually helps. So our platform is essentially it's a software platform, right? So at the end of the day, companies and organizations use our platform to create software and digital experiences. It really starts with a full stack development approach. As Martin said, he talked about 2-week sprints, right? And creating usable chunks of functionality in just days, in some cases hours. He talked about the importance of iterating fast. And the way our platform sort of helps with that is the ability to create a full stack experience. So not just the UI, right, but the logic, the APIs, the integration, the connections out to data platforms like Cognite, right? All of that is possible from a single area, even down to process. So creating business processes, traditional BPM type stuff, workflows, all possible from a single development experience. So instead of having to jump around between teams and departments, you can sort of do that all from one place. But if everything were in the box, so to speak, in the platform, it actually wouldn't be as powerful as it is. So one of the core tenets of OutSystems is we really want to make sure our customers don't hit a wall. So we've gone to great lengths to make sure the platform can actually easily integrate out to other systems that you may already have, right? A lot of our customers are not 2-year-old startups. You're going to hear a mutual case study here in just a few minutes from Hunter and Petri. The companies that we work with, some of them are, but most of them are not 2, 3, 4-year-old companies. There may be 30-year-old companies, 40-year-old companies. We work with an oil and gas company in Europe that I believe is apparently 400 years old. So, it's really interesting to see how brand new companies or existing companies with a lot of legacy can improve using this type of approach. But it's not just a development experience. OutSystems is also a platform as a service. So it's full life cycle. So what we mean by that is instead of having to work with different IT operations teams to publish and deploy your apps, again, all of that is possible within the same platform. So from that perspective, the way we talk about it is that it's full stack and full life cycle. It's not just about creating apps, it's about managing them over time. Martin showed a minute ago a graphic that talked about the importance of quick feedback loops, and even capabilities like that are in the platform to actually gather feedback from your business stakeholders directly in the platform. And then last, ultimately what people are creating are these digital experiences, web and mobile apps, the APIs, and even more modern chat, voice-driven navigation and experiences to engage with their users in new and different ways. And this is why, analysts like Gartner, companies like PwC, they see a lot of future benefit in these approaches. Gartner's predicting that basically 2 out of 3 companies will have some level of low code really in the next couple of years. And we're certainly seeing that trend on our side. How is that happening? Why is that happening? Well, when you look at the digital leaders, right, OutSystems North Star is to make every company a cloud software company. And when you look at the digital leaders, they can do a couple things that some other companies can't. They have amazing customer experience, right? From the web to the phone to text to chat to your Alexa skills, right? Everything feels connected. They figured out Agile so they can deliver that software iteratively, continuously, and do it quickly. They have low levels they have modern architecture. They have low levels of technical debt, unlike older companies, right? A lot of older companies are stuck with vendor packages, COTS packages, ERP systems that are 30 years old, right? So it's hard to be agile in that type of environment. And then lastly, they can attract talent. A lot of companies that we work with come to us and they have a hard time getting enough digital native developers available to actually help create these experiences. So on the flip side, what do we see? We see a lot of companies with broken experiences. They come to us with these problems. They're slow. They're not agile. They're not there yet. They had a lot of technical debt. Maybe their existing custom software they've written, or like I said before, COTS packages, third-party vendors, ERP systems, you name it. And it's hard for them to be agile given that legacy. And then lastly, they don't necessarily have the manpower to create the digital experiences that they want to create. And that's really where our platform comes in. At OutSystems, we think you have to solve those 4 problems together. And that's what our platform seeks to do. So we help companies create web and mobile digital experiences with a level of agility and modern architecture that they're finding hard to do otherwise. And lastly, the platform broadens the spectrum of people who can contribute technically. So from a talent perspective, you can take your existing teams, your existing developers. We even have customers who have delivered their first applications with analysts, BSAs, and so on. And so we really broaden that spectrum of who could contribute to create these types of digital experiences. And again, it's really key that they be solved together, because if you want to start creating great user experience, for example, as Martin talked about, in design thinkers and all these things, you may not have the talent to do it. Or similarly, it's very hard to be agile if you don't have a modern architecture. And that's why we believe in this approach of a full stack, full life cycle, platform to help address the problem. Because again, it's sort of you pull one string and you have a problem somewhere else, right? So that's our approach to the platform, technically, functionally. That's how it helps customers. And what's the value of that, right? Well, out of the gate, we have tons and tons of studies. Look, vendors say this all the time, right? But we have tons and tons of customer studies, our own internal studies, even third-party independent studies about return on investment. And what the data shows is that OutSystems projects get delivered 6 to 10 times faster than traditional software delivery means, right? Which is pretty incredible by itself, but actually is the less interesting part for me. For me, what's more interesting is what else companies can do with that time. It's more about efficiency than speed. What can your company, maybe in a crisis like this that we're in today, maybe it means your company survives or doesn't, right? Maybe it means you can help somehow. In the case of Cognite, maybe it means you bring new data ops solutions to market. I mean, OutSystems is very focused on independent software vendors in the ISV space to build this ecosystem so that they can get their solutions to market, or our joint solutions to market, more quickly to help customers like the one that you're going to hear more about in just a minute. And with that, I'll pass back, I think, to Martin, or right over to Petri to move us forward. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Martin. So let's zoom in on the lowest layer of the technical architecture, which is bizarrely enough, or sort of unsurprisingly enough, perhaps the most complicated of them all. So we like to think of it as the iceberg metaphor, where there's a lot of things at the surface, which is the tip of the iceberg, but there's actually a lot more volume lurking beneath that needs to be addressed when you really want to take digital and make it into a utility that genuinely drives value and is used by your audience's internal or partner at scale. So let us walk you through the concept of data operations. How do you operationalize data within the next couple of minutes? So my name is Petri Vanik. I'm the Vice President for Product Marketing at Cognite. And Cognite is an industrially focused data operations platform provider. So quickly, before we jump into what DataOps is and how it is used by industrial companies and why it's relevant for everyone in the industrial space, and of course outside as well, a little bit of a backdrop on the evolution of data, especially now in the era of artificial intelligence. So where are we really? Kind of a sanity check, if you will. And I guess it's a fair statement to say that we've all marveled at our capabilities to collect data for the past decade. We've built a formidable ecosystem of ETL tools, data warehousing, and data lakes. So we're pretty good at collecting data. We're basically just going from a nowhere stance to a toddler stance when it comes to connecting data, operationalizing data, or scaling the usage of data within the enterprise and the industrial context. A little bit of a caveat to this bifurcation of collection being relatively mature and the rest of the value chain, which without its existence, the data itself is worthless, though it sits in a cloud data warehouse, is that in the industrial reality, we still do suffer from the OT-IT divide, which will, again, kind of sets us back a little bit on the collection success that is otherwise pretty mission accomplished in other industries. So again, coming back to the data paradox and how do we go about using data, we did a piece of research together with Forrester earlier this year and starting late last year. And we surveyed about 160 digital leaders in heavy asset industries, half Northam, half global. So it's a very representative set of audiences. And we asked them a series of questions. And the report is, by the way, available on Cognite.com in full. But a couple of questions were about what do these digital leaders and data leaders consider being the proper state where they can say that they are digitally mature. So how well do they agree and disagree with different statements? And we basically put two statements to them. One is that we believe that, or we asked them if they believe that data needs to become self-explanatory to all data consumers without needing subject matter expert support. So, for example, a data scientist needs to be able to understand the data that they have access to and see in context without needing to resort back to the field engineer who knows the equipment intimately. A second one we asked is that, or we positioned, is that, is a company digitally mature when they can enable citizen data scientists and citizen developers to do more with advanced data analytics by themselves? Again, pointing to the independence notion of the actual data consumers being able to operationalize and use data themselves for value. And an astonishing 79%, again, perhaps not astonishing, just shows for where we are today in the absence of this, agree. And what this really means is that when we roll back and talk about digital transformation, everyone always relates and equates digital transformation with some notion of data or artificial intelligence, but it really means that there's an explosion of data consumerism that we're seeing in the enterprise and industrial space. And all of these data consumers, be they citizen data engineers, citizen developers, be they professional developers or professional data scientists, or be they field engineers themselves, operations support engineers, they actually all are saying we need contextualized, as in self-explanatory data. We need data that we can understand what it is when we get access to it. So this brings us conveniently to DataOps. What is DataOps? Very many of you are probably familiar with DevOps. That has been around for a good decade now and is certainly being adopted by almost everyone these days in 2020s. But DataOps is a much more novel concept, but it's actually very, very similar, where it draws upon all of the good aspects of DevOps, simply transferring them to the data realm as opposed to the development realm. So DataOps is a collaborative data management practice that focuses on improving the communication, integration, and automation of data flows between the data managers and the source systems, obviously, and the data consumers across the entire organization, also with external partners, of course. The goal is to create predictable delivery and change management of data, data models, and related artifacts, such as synthetic data produced by machine learning models or through physics simulations that are integrated. Again, very, very similar to DevOps. And last but not least, DataOps uses technology to automate this entire data delivery with the appropriate levels of security, quality, and metadata that needs to be enriched procedurally to improve the use and value of this data in what we all know is a very dynamic and rapidly changing environment. And if we are to summarize what DataOps really is, it is about operationalizing data at scale. Which brings us to the value picture. And this links very nicely to what Martin alluded to at the beginning with this portfolio theory like venture capital mentality to going after digital opportunities, is that the challenge is really not, and looking at the left-hand side illustration here, the challenge is rarely how do we go about implementing one minimum viable product or building one use case into a digital app. That we can actually do with a bare metal, bare bones approach if we so choose to, but it's not a scalable approach. So the challenge is how do we go from addressing one use case to addressing a whole portfolio of use cases in parallel? So how to get this portfolio notion into our execution strategy? And perhaps even more critically and definitely more challengingly, and we see this across all of our customers in oil and gas, manufacturing, in power and utilities, shipping, and other verticals, is that the real challenge where rubber really hits the road is once we have properly established value, we have properly established that the users like it and they can use it, they want to use it, and it's truly valuable. How do we scale what works for one asset or one equipment or one CNC machine? How do we really take that and scale that across the whole fleet of similar type equipment or across the whole fleet of similar assets in different geographies, which are commonly linked to different data sources with different data models? So this is really what DataOps is all about. It's about operational impact at scale. And there are four key areas. One is we need to We need to focus on deployment automation and scaling. Second, data quality and alerting in an automated fashion when something goes wrong, not if, it always does. Something always goes wrong in a live dynamic environment. We need to look at data pipelines, how we orchestrate data pipelines. And last but not least, we need to look at what a lot of people talk about as ML ops or machine learning operations. How do we actually deploy data science models at scale in production? A theme that is also referred to as function hosting when we look slightly beyond hosting a machine learning model, but hosting some other piece of code. And I'll give you a quick 6-point checklist for moving data-driven apps to production at scale. And we start with the development side. So we really need citizen user interfaces for experimentation and development. Low code is a brilliant entry point here as well, of course. So we need both notebook access for the professional community and low code so that we can reduce the entry barrier to development experiences. We need testing. So we need test pipelines and automation tooling for all of the components in these data pipelines. And we also need test-driven development to be encouraged and enabled through the tooling. We need to operationalize. So a lot of the good principles of DevOps do apply to data, to models, and entire sort of data workflows exactly the same way. We need versioning, we need automation, and we need observability of all components. We need lineage and data quality. So we need properly mutable version components for all steps of the workflow in the data. And we need high-resolution automated data quality testing across the pragmatic, synthetic, and semantic realms of data quality. Contextualization, which is about linking different data into a meaningful graph data representation that can actually be used by data scientists in their data models, for example. So we do need to use the best capabilities we have today available using machine learning models to enrich data with context through data pipelines. And we also need to make all of this traceable and understandable for citizen users. And last but not least, workflow orchestration. So we need to orchestrate the data and the business workflows in a unified user interface, also on the data layer before we move into the application development experiences. And we need to version control. We need to test and operationalize business cases as one unit. So we need to be able to look at the data that is feeding a business application as one coherent unit. We like to talk of it as data kits here at Cognite. And sort of to summarize, to end off, data ops with Cognite Data Fusion, what does that really mean? What is the value here? It means that there's no more OT, IT data divide. You have all of the data fully integrated into a contextual single source available for your operations and IT people and all your data consumers. We can remove the IT data science divide. So there's a very big divide similar to the OT IT divide that is currently very evident between the data science communities or the data science teams and the IT department or the data guardians or custodians. We can mitigate a lot of issues we have with poor data quality. That is a very big blocker for most industrial companies in moving anything from a POC or a test bed to live production. The inability to scale, again, by treating data with a properly contextual data model and by looking at data as a unit that you can templatize and replicate, we actually get to a point where we can scale. And Hunter will showcase this to you with our customer case study very soon. And of course, you don't have a slow innovation cycle anymore. You're always running things with live data. So the minute something is iterated, you can move it to production instantly because it is running on live data of production quality. And definitely not least, and not least importantly, but actually the primary point is that we no longer suffer from slow, expensive, manual, or oftentimes entirely failing transitions from a proof of concept stage to live production. So this is the value promise of DataOps. And for those familiar with DevOps, we strongly encourage you look into data operations as the best buddy to your DevOps workflows. With this, I hand over back to Martin for a quick summary before we jump into the case study.
Yes, thank you very much, Petri. I think it was a lot of information, and we are aware that this is a little bit like the Matrix. So you came here, and half an hour later, you are a little bit overwhelmed by the amount of information. For many of you may be very into data, for example, but not have heard much about design thinking, or they are very into software, but not into data and so on. So we are aware it's quite a lot of information. So we wanted to summarize it for you. So 3 key takeaways before the case study. If we want to say 3 things, is first, you need a proven process to deliver business value, from a strategy to bottom line impact. And today you can accelerate that process with enablers. And we have taken a look at 2 enablers today. One of them is, well, we also have taken a look at how to work agile and design thinking, but 2 particular enablers with technology. Low code enables rapid prototyping in the matter of days, as well as automated deployment and security workflows for DevOps, reducing time to market, run and maintain cost, and increasing adaptability. And this is one of the things that I think people are very amazed by OutSystems, for example, when they see how quick you can make user interfaces. But when I calculate the cost, I'm amazed of how much money you save 2, 3, 5 years down the line, and that is on the run and maintain cost. And lastly is DataOps, and it is this amazing concept of treating data as code, and I think this is what I want to take with you. So DataOps is a lot about treating data as code and taking the lessons from DevOps, enabling access to contextualized data at scale, robust data management and data quality over time, and easy SDKs and APIs integration with front ends and low-code platforms. So this is the partnership that we have built together, and we have put it in a sort of stack to be able to fast-track value generation for any customer, any industry. But today we're going to deep dive a lot more into manufacturing. So for that we have Hunter, and we are going to show our sort of dream together, which is make every company a cloud software company. So with the example of Arbaque, I will hand over to Hunter.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Martin, for the introduction. So again, my name is Hunter from Cognite, and what we'd like to do is kind of show you very, very practically what the partnership that we've been talking about looks like with one of our customers where we've applied these technologies in combination, specifically with a manufacturer on the west coast of Norway called Arbaque. And as just a very brief introduction to them as a company, they're a manufacturer, as I said, on the west coast doing advanced machining, specifically for complex components going into the oil and gas sector. We've been working with them since last fall on their digital program, and it's very clear they're taking a very innovative approach to digital manufacturing. And since that time, we've collected quite a lot of data with them. We're talking IoT data from CNC machines, ERP data, so work order information, welding machine information, quality data, and much, much more. And since the beginning, really, we've known that eventually we need to actually take that data and drive it back to the operators of their machines. Because candidly, even in the most advanced of manufacturing operations, operators are still critical to the efficiency of those operations. And so when we started this project jointly with PwC, with Arbaque, the goal was to take data and present live operational data to the operators. But of course, operators have a lot more than just looking at data to do. They actually have to run real production. And so we needed to make that data easy and intuitive in visuals so that they can enable their decision-making rather than bottleneck it. And lastly, we needed to actually hopefully collect feedback from those operators and enrich that data set. So that data from the machines and more with feedback from the operators. And so with that, I want to spend the majority of the time in the demonstration itself, showing what we've developed jointly. And I think it's quite an interesting work that we've been able to do with PwC in developing this using Cognite and OutSystems products. So with that, I'll go ahead and jump into the videos. So the first video that you'll see here is logging in as an operator in this particular case. And this operator is getting access to a lot of different data. And I know this looks quite simple, and actually that's very much by design. But there's a lot going on behind the scenes here. So these visualizations are showing data from work orders on the left-hand side, KPIs that those operators are measured on in the center, as well as live IoT data being visualized in the middle from the machines, things like loads and pressure and information regarding how those machines are operating. And so the fascinating thing is here, really all of this is being enabled by the fact that Cognite's API makes it very easy to retrieve that data live from all of these different sources. So now you have a single source of integration to pull that data from and show inside visualizations, which we were able to pull really from OutSystems standard libraries. So here we now get the kind of speed of implementation on taking that live data and building it into visualizations, which make it very, very simple for those operators to begin to use almost immediately. But next, of course, these operators are experts on their machines. Many of them have been operating for more than a decade on some of these machines, so they know them better than anybody. And so what we wanted to do is enable those operators to actually configure the views that they see on their own as well. And so what you're seeing here is an operator logging in a configuration mode. They have access to a number of different type of widgets that they can choose from, things like time series, so IoT data, temperature, et cetera, as well as events and work orders. And here where you see actually searching for that data, this is quite fascinating because, again, this is where the simplicity is sometimes misleading, because what's happening here is actually pinging the Cognite Data Fusion service and saying, what data do I have available on this specific asset that I have available to show in this live visualization? And so from there, they're able to then take that data, pull it in, choose how they want to visualize it, give it a custom name if they want to, select the time frame they want to see it with, and then immediately start to bring that into the visual. And this is truly live data now being shown in a dashboard that the operator can immediately start to use. And that includes all of the data that they have access to inside of Cognite Data Fusion. And the powerful thing is here that the data model that Cognite is providing here is built for industry. So it's very much intended to be intuitive in that way, that I can ask what data is accessible on this machine. Tell me what work order is ongoing on this machine. Those are one-to-one queries that you can ask to CDF. And when you couple that with these very clean, easy to build visualizations, that's a very powerful story. And with that, of course, and this is one of the earlier requests we had regarding these applications as well, which is those operators step away from the machine at various times to do many other things. So we wanted to be able to support mobile views as well. So what you're seeing here is just a simulated mobile phone, since it probably wouldn't look too great to show my own phone in the video here. But the point is that once we have all this live data enabled by Cognite's APIs, using OutSystems allowed us to go from the web view that you saw to the mobile view almost instantaneously. So now really in the palm of their hands, these operators are able to take really a huge amount of data with them and continue to monitor that machine even when they're not immediately at that machine. And the last thing I wanted to walk through here as far as the demonstration goes is, of course, we've developed admin roles and configuration tools for this, things like templates for those dashboards, as well as the ability to expand that application. So what you can see here is the admin actually going in and importing a new machine. And what we're doing here is quite fascinating, because what we're doing is calling out to CDF and saying, okay, I want to retrieve this new machine. Let's import it to it, get all of that rich metadata that comes along with that machine, and make it available within the application now. And I think this is where everybody has commented on the scalability of these initiatives, and you really have to think of that from the beginning. And so what we've done is said, even if you add a new machine, no matter what, you can pull that into the application and start to visualize that data, start from a blank template, import a new visualization, and start to build out those views for the operators. And we've built it in a way such that the admin can actually push a default configuration of that dashboard out to the operators so that they don't have to set it up themselves the first time. The very first time they log into that application, they'll have access to a nice, rich set of visualizations already put together. And I think one thing to call out here, it's not very easy to show in the video in particular, but in the background is enabled a lot of data governance and quality assurance that's happening that made the development process of the application exceedingly easy, because we're able to assure that we have uptime on the data, that it's real time, that the proper security categories are applied to each of the users that might have that data. So we remove a huge amount of complexity so that the development workflow can just be as clean as possible. And so that's really kind of the name of the game when it comes to this. And it also means that we were able to start from, instead of developing a proof of concept on a single machine, we actually developed for all machines simultaneously. So really we hit scale immediately, which is really, I think, a very impressive feat. And with that, I think the only things I wanted to leave you with following the demonstration is really just to say that in case you're concerned that we had 20 developers working for the last year on this application or something like this, really at the end of the day, we were able to apply this to 40 machines in less than 4 weeks with a developer from PwC, and of course the data that we had pulled together with Orbaka inside of Cognite Data Fusion. So I think it's really, I hope that this very practically shows this powerful combination between real-time data access in a very scalable and well-governed way in Cognite Data Fusion, alongside really easy to view and construct visualizations and that whole application development workflow from OutSystems, alongside the know-how from PwC to actually execute on the usage of these tools and bring those to life with our customer Orbaka. So with that, I'll hand it back over to you, Martin, for questions, but I appreciate the time and hope you have lots of tough questions for me on this one.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Hunter. And again, thank you very much, Petteri and Andy. I think it's been a great walkthrough. Actually, a lot of information with a very practical case. I've been following the case every week with Tiago from Portugal. I think he's in the audience, so I wanted to also congratulate him because I know how hard he has been working on this, and also the guys from Cognite, Hunter, yourself, and your team. You have been working really hard for this, but really hard is much less than it used to be. And I think that's something that is a good takeaway, that with OutSystem platform and Cognite and the Pricewaterhouse process, things are not painful as it used to be. So now for Q&A, we have around 10 minutes more for Q&A. So we expect the audience to get engaged. And you can, please, you can say for Pricewaterhouse or for OutSystems or for Cognite, or you can literally say, "Hi, Hunter, I have a question for you." So please just let us know what you think. Any questions that you may have? Yes, I get the first question here. Well, we have plenty of questions now that I go down. So the first one that I get is I think this is for Andy. So low code in the past has been sold as a silver bullet, but implementation has proven that whenever you need just a small bespoke or a special interaction of novel feature, everything falls apart or slows down. Has OutSystems a unique approach to this?
Yeah, what a good question. I tried to answer that one through the chat, so hopefully I tried, hopefully I answered it correctly. But look, I don't love the term no code and low code solutions. These are industry analyst terms, but there's a big difference between no code and low code. And OutSystems is a leader in most of the low code quadrants and analyses that you'll see out there. And the answer to your question is a definite yes. So the platform is very, very extensible. And what I mean by that is our goal is for you not to have to write high traditional complex code, right? So we did a study once that showed that over 98% of use cases actually get implemented without having to resort to high code. But you certainly can. So the cool part about the platform is any time that you need to, so I kind of consider it extensibility in the platform, inside the platform and outside the platform. Inside, I mean, you can incorporate REST APIs like Hunter and Petteri's work pulling in Cognite data via API. You can even connect directly to existing databases via ODBC or whatever connectivity protocol you need to. But even, those are kind of like, within the walls of the platform. But you can also even write high code and modules, using traditional native code, HTML, JavaScript, the platform's native source code, which happens to be based on .NET. So all of that is possible within the platform. And it goes back to the message I delivered earlier around not hitting walls. That's one of the things we really want to make sure our customers don't do. And I think that's why you see customers of OutSystems tend to implement much larger, more robust sort of enterprise use cases. Not just sort of tactical. We call those tactical operational apps, and we certainly see a good amount of that too. But the differentiator for OutSystems is the ability to extend it into those more complex enterprise use cases. Great question.
Yes, I have been working with low code and most of the low-code platforms, and I can say, please take a look at OutSystems. I mean, the things that you can do is, I think you have this limitless quote or something about that, and I think it's
That's right.
that you can just write code, so it's super flexible.
Low code without limits. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So I have this one about surely machine operators want fairly straightforward information. What should AI machine now? I don't understand that very well, but they don't need information about work orders, KPI, equipment uptime. Doesn't it distract them? Well, there are two things. So first, they can personalize, and I think Hunter can talk a little bit more about that. I would like to say that, well, this is something we're going to test, right? So we are going to see this live with operators over the next weeks. So it took just 4 weeks to actually test with real people if that's actually what they need. So that's from an agile perspective, my point of view. But then I think Hunter may have some more points.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why, as you said, Martin, we built in the ability to personalize or configure those dashboards at the operator level too. So it's up to them in part. They can actually dictate what they want to see in those dashboards as well. So if we can make the data accessible and visible to them in an easy way, then that's the ideal situation, because they know those machines and what data they need better than really anybody else.
Okay, great. And I want to pick another one for Cognite. You have demonstrated well how to consume and present live data through low code, but how well is the platform to interact with the end user, for example, to get data input or data from an operator through the app and back to CDF?
Yeah, sure thing. So we support very, very well the write back capabilities into CDF as well. And write back is a lot trickier than people think when you start down that venture, right? Because you need to conform to security so that you don't overwrite data. How are you structuring that data when you write it back to make sure that it's reusable in a future time as well? So we're working towards, that's one of the features we'll be adding in the next round of features. But it's well supported by Cognite Data Fusion, and that control and governance layer is there very, very much out of the box. And then connecting that to the ability to enrich data within Cognite Data Fusion is very well suited.
Great. I have a question for Pricewaterhouse, then I have another one for OutSystems. So for Pricewaterhouse, Muhammad Moslet. So what exactly the role of Pricewaterhouse, project management and orchestrating the client with other IT stakeholders? Yes, there has been a little bit of project management, but in this case, we have taken a lot of role on the design. So we actually orchestrate a blended team between Norway and Portugal. So Thiago is in the audience. He has been actually our developer. So Pricewaterhouse in this sense has been providing the development for the top layer, while Cognite has been working on the data layer for quite some time. So I don't know if Hunter, you or Petteri, you have anything else to add here about how we have collaborated.
No, I think that's a perfect summary of this, and obviously it's a lot of design work and development work that's enabled by the PwC team and utilizing the data that we have in Cognite Data Fusion from Orbaka.
Yeah. Then I have another one for options, which is, hey, great demo. Was the app built using the reactive web app approach or the traditional web? And this is for people who have used the platform. And also, how much did you have to put into building custom modules that were not available in the Forge?
Yeah, this actually may be a better question for Hunter and team. I suspect it was a mobile app, though, not a traditional web app at all.
I think it was a reactive web app.
Yeah, so we went for reactive web for a variety of reasons, but obviously that's well supported on both the desktop and mobile. That's one of the reasons why we ultimately went for that approach. There's a variety of different things. Some of the custom configuration, as Andy alluded to, we had to use let's say the boundaries of low code, and thankfully OutSystems supports even the more kind of complex workflows that could be done there as well. But we were able to leverage a lot of the out-of-the-box functionality from the Forge with OutSystems in doing development work. So a large amount of the visualizations, getting feedback from users. All of those things are really out-of-the-box type features, and it's incredible how quick those can be deployed when you can use those from the Forge directly.
Hey, Martin, just one quick word there, because the asker of that question dropped in a word that probably most of the audience doesn't know what it is, the Forge. The Forge is OutSystems open source community and a library of basically connectors and plugins to other systems. So there are over 3,000 reusable, consider them low-code connectors or low-code widgets. They can be UI, they can be data, what have you, but anything from connecting to your Salesforce instance to, you know, particular types of UI widgets and data layers, and anything you can build in OutSystems can be published as you know, an app on the Forge. Full applications down to just small widgets.
Super. Thanks, Andy. We have another question from Michael. Question to everyone: what has been the perceived greatest benefit of building on top of Cognite? I don't know who to ask this. Maybe Petteri?
Yeah, sort of I guess if we want to be specific to Arbak, Hunter is the best person, but if I generalize a little bit, Cognite is very, very focused on the industrial customer segment. So we've obviously done a lot of work on bridging the operational technology silos and converging those with the IT data realm. We've also focused a lot on accommodating industry-specific data modeling requirements. So the data will be available to the application layer, as Hunter described in the demo today, in a very, very intuitive and understandable format that can be instantly applied without the actual data consumer or the person configuring the application needing to know the exact data topology from the source systems, and without them needing to understand the technical requirements of the data types, etc. So that's definitely one reason. Second is the ability to actually execute code and run machine learning models and functions in the Cognite Data Fusion platform directly. So here and now, of course, the application doesn't yet include any advanced applications or advanced modeling with data science, but those are fully supported by the Cognite Data Fusion platform, as is write back, so you can write back data. And again, if we think of a machine learning model, for example, it actually generates a new stream of data, takes data in, generates a new stream of data as an output, and that new data stream is written back to Cognite Data Fusion and will then become available to other application experiences as well. So those are a couple of the features. And then last but definitely not least, it's the ability to scale. So really templatize the data around humanely understandable artifacts such as a CNC machine or anything else, and then scale those templatized data sets and data kits to be able to deliver those application experiences at massive scale very, very efficiently.
Okay, so thank you very much, Terry. I'm asking for a very last question. If there is no one writing in the next 20 seconds, I think we will wrap up. But I want to thank you very much, Andy, Hunter, Petteri, but also Tiago, all the people that has been working hard to make this application, as well as our customer Arbak, for allowing us to also communicate the success story in this way. Thank you very much for all the participants today. It's been a great webinar. We're going to send you the recording and a follow-up link with also some more information and resources to read more about Pricewaterhouse, Cognite, and OutSystems. So thank you very much. One more question I have. Okay, I have one more question for Hunter just before we leave. How has the learning curve been for the people working on the project? Did they all have experience with OutSystems from before?
So Tiago from PwC certainly has had OutSystems experience before, but I must say with any project I can't help but get my hands dirty. So I was a bit hands-on as well with OutSystems, and I certainly had no experience with it. So I can at least be a testament to the ease of using that system, but for development here. But this was, I will say, Tiago's first time interacting with data from Cognite Data Fusion. So I hope that Tiago would share in the opinion that interacting with data from our systems, from Cognite systems, was quite easy and hopefully quite well documented and easy to consume. So.
Yeah, I've seen working on having the Postman and the APIs and all of that. It seems actually quite easy for how difficult it is. So, and actually the API from Cognite is quite well documented. So I think it all flows really good. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. It was a pleasure, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of the afternoon and the follow-up links and resources.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Or good afternoon and good morning.
Yep.
Bye.